Hello everyone, it's BDR Kelson, aka Kelson64, your favorite moderator from the Gran Turismo subreddit. In this video, I'll be providing my ideas to fix the penalty system in Gran Turismo 7. I want to preface this video by saying that most of my suggestions are based on Polyphony Digital realistically using elements of the game that are already in place. Also, this may be a lengthy video, so bear with me because I'm trying to cram as much information into it as I can. Alright, we've all had that opportunity to watch that What is Sportsmanship video in the game. According to that video, motorsport is a non-contact sport where absolutely no contact is acceptable. Frankly, this is open to interpretation, as some areas of motorsport have a saying that bumping is racing. Still, I think we can all agree that bumping and incidental contact is one thing, and a player being toxic and using unfair play is quite another. When Gran Turismo 7 was released, the penalty system was much too strict, and incidental contact resulted in race-crippling penalties. Polyphony Digital released an update to the penalty system which remedied the incidental contact penalty, but this update also allowed the more aggressive toxic players to get away with obvious infractions unscathed. Polyphony Digital must come up with a happy medium between the original penalty system and the penalty system that's currently in place. So how do we fix the penalty system? That's what I'm going to cover right now. First, I want to talk about the 4 types of penalties in Gran Turismo 7. The least important in relation to this video is the 1-minute penalty a player will get assessed at the end of a race when they don't meet the specified race requirements. For example, not pitting when a pit stop is required or not using the correct tire compound or compounds within a race. The second is the 3-second penalty a player will get when he crosses the lines entering or exiting pit lane. The third is a track limit violation, which are given in half-second increments for each violation. And the fourth penalty and the final penalty is the collision penalty, which are assessed in various increments depending on the severity of each violation. Now, here's my first set of fixes for the penalty system regarding the penalty line. And they may be controversial, but I think these 2 fixes will work. First, I strongly believe that any player who has been assessed a penalty needs to serve that penalty at the closest penalty line. Too many times I've seen players permitted to pass through a penalty line without having to serve their current penalty. This is horrible because it allows the penalized player to wreak havoc for an extra lap. And it also allows other players an opportunity to exact revenge on that penalized player, and that kind of results in innocent players getting caught up in all of this. Second, I believe the penalty line should only be used to serve track limit penalties and pit violations. You heard that right. It should only be used to serve track limit violation penalties and pit violations. Basically, the penalty line should only be used for non-contact penalties. But what about those contact or collision penalties? Simply put, all collision penalties should be served as soon as they are assessed. In other words, as soon as the collision penalty indicator pops up above the player's head in the game, the player in violation is ghosted and serves their penalty right then on the spot. Furthermore, depending on the severity of the collision, the car of the player in violation of the collision penalty should also receive tire, body, and or engine damage. Again, this depends on the severity of the collision. They will have to drive in this penalized state until their car repairs itself. Next, I also feel that any player who has served 1 collision penalty in a race should also have any subsequent penalties in that session multiplied by 2. In other words, if a player has already received the collision penalty, the next violation would result in double the penalty. One last point to make about penalty times. In recent weeks, Daily Race A has been set up so that DR and SR do not update. So, this next point is specifically about Daily Race B and Daily Race C. The length of Daily Race B is usually approximately half as long as Daily Race C. So, I feel that the collision penalties in Daily Race B should be double. In other words, a 3-second penalty in Daily Race C would be a 6-second penalty in Daily Race B. But why? With Daily Race B being a shorter race, a lengthier penalty would make it much more difficult for the player in violation to catch up to the other players and continue their toxic behavior. But by the same token, it would give the players that are innocent players that are currently on the track a time to separate themselves from those toxic players. So you see where I'm going there. One last thing that I want to mention. Any player who has a collision penalty should never be reset back onto the track. I've seen dive bombers and high-speed rammers wipe out innocent players only to be reset right behind or directly in front of them. So why would you do that to the players that this guy has already destroyed? Make the penalized player get their bearings and get back on track on their own while they're serving their penalty and while they're serving their collision damage. Okay, so final thought that I'd like to discuss here. I've seen many suggestions on the Gran Turismo subreddit saying that Polyphony Digital should implement a report feature where players can report toxic drivers. Now, as someone who has past experience working in the gaming industry largely as a customer support representative who fielded these in-game reports from players, I can tell you with certainty that the report feature it won't work. Why? Because frankly speaking, this is the internet, folks. Polyphony Digital would get flooded with fabricated reports by players who were upset that they were cleanly passed on the final lap and lost the position. Trust me. When I was in the industry, I would say that at least 80% of the reports we got for the three games that we were monitoring were utterly and completely false reports. Yet we had to investigate every single one. Instead, Polyphony Digital already monitors every player's sportsmanship via the SR rating in the game. So a sudden decrease in any player's SR, whether their actual rating goes down from, say, daily, rating, an S rating down to an A rating, but if a sudden decrease in any player's SR should cause that player to be flagged for review and the appropriate action taken. Let Polyphony Digital's own biometrics algorithm, or whatever you want to call it, in the game dictate who gets reported or not. Alright, so, well, that's the video. I apologize if I stumbled over some words. I was born deaf, and so I really have to concentrate on what I'm saying and, to get my pronunciation right, and I tend to stumble over words. And, I apologize for that, but I think you get the gist of what I'm saying. There's probably a lot more that needs to be said about the penalty system, but I think the ideas I've outlined in this particular video would be a step in the right direction. Do you agree with me, or do you disagree with me? Do you have your own suggestions, or perhaps maybe you want to expand on something I've covered in this video, or even if you have questions about something that I need to further explain in this video? I look forward to hearing from your thoughts in the comments on YouTube or the Gran Turismo subreddit. And with that, this is BDR Kelson signing off. Be sure to look for me in the daily races. I'll be the car quickly fading away in your rear view mirror. Ciao for now.